welcome back to This Vibe, or welcome. I'm Vivian Camille, and today I am showing you how I find new trails to explore and how I shake up my training. This past weekend I was in the Baboqurarvi wilderness doing some bushwhacking with some friends, and it really just reminded me how much fun it is to get off the trails and find my own path. So in this video I'm going to be showing you how I go about finding places where you can even do that, and what I pack, what I bring, and how I go about safely venturing all across the desert mountains. I usually run well-maintained trails, so this was a really fun change of pace for me and reminded me how much fun it is to just go out and start exploring. The Baboqurarvi wilderness is about an hour drive from Tucson. Arizona has so much public land, so it's really not hard to find. It's as easy as getting on Google Maps and finding the green areas. In this case, a little research on the BLM website led us to understand this is public land. The goal for the day was just to go out and explore it in the direction of Baboquarvi Peak. There's an actual trail on the backside of the mountain to get up to the peak. But that would have added 45 minutes to the drive. So instead we opted to walk for 5 hours in the desert and not summit the peak. For real though, the bushwhack was about finding our own path and having fun. It's not always about a peak day. We drove down a country road and through the gate of Elkhorn Ranch. This is private land, but the owner has allowed access to the public. They even have a parking lot, and that's where we packed up and headed out to take off on our day of hiking and scrambling up the Baboquarvi mountains. Since the start of the hike was on private land, we did our best to keep the distance from the houses. The trail did lead us in that direction. Being on private property is a privilege, so we kept quiet and left no trace as we traveled through. That's important to remember anytime you're on private land. There's always the potential that they could take that access away, and it's always better to be good stewards of the land so that we keep those privileges. Eventually we ended up in the foothills where we found a well-worn trail. We took it up as far as it could go before it disappeared and the true bushwhacking began. At this point in the day, it was time to transition from the well-traveled trails to some game trails. Game trails are a lot narrower than a regular trail, but they usually avoid the majority of the brush, which is nice when you're in a prickly place like this. In most cases, the higher you go, the less brush and the less bushwhacking you'll have to do. So as we continued to climb, the cactus thinned out and we entered into a new biome. We traded the saguaros for some pine trees. Though the prickly plants lessen as you go up, your chances of cliffing out get greater as you climb. Cliffing out or ledged up means you can't climb up or down, so you find yourself in quite the pickle. It can happen if you hop off a ledge only to find you can't climb back up that ledge, and then you look down and you realize you're staring at a sheer drop off. So being aware of that fate, we were cautious to make sure we had a way to backtrack if need be.
Getting worse this way, it looks like. Yeah. I think that goes. We're not going to make it up there today. Just don't count us out yet. All right, let's see if we can put.
We're gonna take it down this way.
I think we're gonna go back further, maybe. I think the most sensible thing would start where we turned around down there and push our way down through there. It looks like we can get about 20 yards, but then it looks like it drops again.
Exploring a place that lacks trails means you're probably going to be checking your options frequently and adding mileage and adding time. So we would scout to the left, we'd scout to the right, and then we'd make a decision on which way seemed promising and which way we knew most likely we wouldn't cliff out. We were originally going to take a really steep trail down with the potential of cliffing out, but we ended up picking a different route, kind of backtracking, going back down one of the ridges we climbed and finding a different, less steep trail that ended up being the winner for sure.
We might just be missing something obvious. That's why I feel like we're going to get up here and we're going to see the easy way back. Yeah. This will probably be a much easier way, and we'll walk the canyon back.
This little path that we created led us to some scrambling, and from there we were able to kind of pick our way across the rocks. A lot of these rocks were really loose, To protect yourself from rockfall, there's kind of two ways you can do it. You can either stay really close together so the rocks don't have as much time to gain momentum from person to person, or you can stay really far apart so you can see the rocks when they start coming and have enough time to get out of the way. When it comes to bushwhacking, you're really only limited to the amount of water you've carried in and the energy you have. So we stopped for a break around 3 hours in and reassessed our time and energy for the day. We decided making it to the base of Baboqurarvi Peak was going to take a couple more hours than we had bargained for, and most of us wouldn't have enough water to get there. I know how enticing it is to arrive at where you planned on going, but it's much wiser to call it when water runs low, especially in the desert. When it comes to this sort of exploration, you've really got to hold your goals loosely so they don't end up making you a dehydrated, lost fool. In the words of David, the peak is not going anywhere. You can come back another day. So, we did not make it to Baboquarvi Peak because it is way over there. But we did a nice, almost 3-hour hike here in the Baboquarvi wilderness, which has been phenomenal. Great views still, and a lot of fun. A lot of bushwhacking. This is no well-traveled trail by any means, but there's the peak right over there. Apparently there's a 9-mile hike from the backside up it, but that's not what we did today. With the uncertainty of mileage, time, and terrain, when it comes to a bushwhacking adventure like this, my pack is packed a little different than I would pack it for a trail run, just because I don't exactly know what to expect. So in the morning, I made sure to have my essentials. When it comes to packing my pack, I'm packing for a desert bushwhack. If I'm going somewhere out in Colorado, what I pack is going to be a lot different. I'll bring probably 2 or 3 layers, but in this case, the first thing is to consider the weather. For me, it's going to be sunny, it's going to be hot, so I make sure and always have sun protection. That means something to cover my shoulders. This is a really lightweight cotton, sunglasses, and a hat. Lots of sunscreen, because again, we don't know how long we're going to go out. I knew this hike would be anywhere from 5 to 10 miles, so I knew it was going to be a lengthy day. Sunglasses are not just a suggestion. You should definitely bring these if you're bushwhacking. There are all kinds of twigs out there that can get stuck in your eye, poke you when you're not paying attention, or when you are paying attention, you just don't see it. I know, it happened to me, even when I was wearing sunglasses this past weekend. So, yes, I came off the trail and still had a little bit of water left in the tank, which is always good. I like to finish with a little extra. I did finish all of my electrolyte bottle, and I also finished my entire bladder. Whatever electrolyte you like to bring, whether it's tabs or you go ahead and pre-fill it, whatever it is, I always bring extra in case I need to refill a water bottle with more electrolyte. Along the way, I had a fruit leather and almond butter. I always like to throw in a goo just for emergency rations. Depending on where you're going and what you're doing and whether or not you like poles or have them, you might want to bring poles. We did a lot of quick descending, and these were very helpful in stabilizing me as I went down the trail, especially because I got some janky knees going on right now. You can always carry them, and if you don't need them, maybe a friend might need them, but they're always good to have. These are also really good if somebody breaks something, you can use them as a splint. That's worst case scenario. Of course, bring your toilet. You just never know when nature calls. 3 things that I did not bring, but you might want to consider depending on the bushwhack you're going to do. 1, a compass. For us being in the desert, you have a pretty clear line of sight and can anytime pretty much see where you are and go in one direction. But if you're in a really forested or woody area, a compass might be a good idea to make sure you're going in one direction, not walking circles. Another thing to consider is just a survival kit, maybe some band-aids, a whistle, things like that if maybe you're alone. And lastly, if you're going out towards the end of the day or you think that the adventure might extend into the evening, I would consider bringing a headlamp. Bringing a headlamp anytime is probably a good idea because you never know how long it might go. Sometimes people get lost and then you're out for a while, and if you have no light, well, that's a problem. Not so much in my pack, but what I put on my body. Like I said, 1, sun protection all the way down, and Tall socks. These are gonna help protect you from the spikes and whatever brush is out there. And then pick a good trail shoe with great traction that's gonna make sure you have good stability as you hike whatever you might hike. I generally pick a shoe that I know will go the distance and traverse whatever terrain. I obviously don't pack this in my pack, but it's something I like to throw in the car so that when I get back I have a lot of water to refill water bottles with. I like to freeze this either partially or fully. That way when I get back from a hike, I will have water and all that I put in my cooler will be nice and cold. It's so refreshing after a long hot hike to come back and have something cold. It really revives the soul. So that's what's in my pack. Let's jump back into the video. On the way back down, we chose to follow the wash, hoping we would meet up with a trail or something that resembled one. Washes always flow down, so if you're going down, you're going in the right direction. It's a good, easy path to follow, and usually in a wash, there's a pathway that's been cleared by the water. The wash was okay, but getting down into the wash was the tricky part. The hike quickly turned into an uncontrolled slide down the mountain. It was a great way to lose elevation quickly, but I must say I was ecstatic I had remembered to bring my poles for this section of the day. My knees were not super happy with moving downhill so abruptly. It was a lot of fun, but the whole time I was just thinking, oh my gosh, this is where snakes live. One's just gonna pop out anytime. And again, in the wise words of David, he said, you know, it's just kind of like surfing with sharks. Best not to think about it. We eventually found something that looked like a trail and followed it out, only having to bushwhack here and there. We stopped again to take breaks, and my favorite break was towards the end at the butterfly hatchery. There had to have been thousands of butterflies at this little puddle of water. They were very drab looking creatures until they opened their wings and showed their vibrant colors. A key to staying out for long, hot hours in the desert is making sure you take plenty of breaks. We took them every hour or so to stop, enjoy the view, have a snack, and intentionally drink water. It's really easy, especially when you're exploring new trails, to forget to drink water, forget to eat. We were finally able to locate the car on the horizon so we could keep moving in the correct direction. We finished up the day having hiked around 10 miles. It took us about 5.5 hours. These are the days I find great appreciation for a trail. Bushwhacking is certainly more of an adventure, but there's nothing like a well-maintained trail to get you from point A to point B quickly. Next time I visit the area, I certainly want to try the backside and do the 9-mile hike up on the actual trail. I love a good bushwhacking day. There's just nothing like it. It's a lot of fun to find your own way, make your own path, and to move about on the road less traveled. Consistent training can sometimes lead me to run the same thing every week and never get out of my small radius around the house, which there's a time and place for that, but going out and bushwhacking in the desert mountains certainly is something worth doing on an off day or when you're not training super consistently. Thank y'all for watching. I really hope this inspires you to get out and explore, and I hope it gives you some sense of how to do it safely. I am so glad y'all are here. Please like and subscribe down below if you like this video or it was helpful. I will see y'all later, and happy trails.